Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to Pace Yourself. Today we'll be talking about a how I solved it series. So today's question was, or requirement is, I need free shipping on all hardware quotes over $200. So similar to how you place an order online in our online shopping, you might say when the value of your cart is over $200, you're honored free shipping. So we want to replicate that same sort of experience with CPQs for our sales reps to be able to share the same free shipping amount for anything that's a hardware quote over $200. So the way I went about doing this was by creating one custom field, one product rule, a summary variable, and 3 price rules. So what I'll be taking you through today is how each of those items work together to make sure the quote actually happens. So let's dive into it. Okay, so we're here in CPQ in a blank quote and we're in the edit line screen. So I'm going to show you what the end result will look like and what we're aiming towards and then how I made it like that. So I'm going to go ahead and add products. I'm going to chuck a miscellaneous product here and a hardware product. We'll make sure we put one of those in. They're not too much value, so they should be under our $200. So we're going to go ahead and hit select. And it's come into our quote line. Now, if you remember, I actually didn't click shipping. So our requirement was to have shipping and provide it to be free over the value of $200. Otherwise, anything under the value of $200 incurs shipping of $15. So this here is working perfectly well. But what if I actually then increase the quantity in my line items to 5, which then goes over the net total of $200. You can see here that it is provided the unit price of $0 and our subtotal does not include our shipping. And I'll just give it one more test, drop it back down to a net total of below $200. And you can see it's added it back on for us. So there's nothing the sales rep needs to think about to make sure they add or remember to add shipping. This works perfectly well as designed. So let's dive into how I did this. As mentioned at the beginning, I created a few extra custom fields. Well, created one extra custom field. But ultimately, you do have to create your product that you're going to add. So first off the bat, you'd add a new product. You can call it whatever you'd like. I've here called it shipping, could be shipping and handling. Make sure you give it a product code. And what I'm actually going to do is give it a price book of $0. So we can see in our related list here, our standard price is $0 because I want to dictate the price in my price rules later down the track. But without a standard price book, it won't be able to be added to a quote. So once you've got your product set up the way you like, we have to then go in and actually make sure we've got a few configurations set up in our CPQ base configurations. And one of them was that immediate calculate. So remember when I changed my field in the quantity value and I clicked away, this icon here is thinking. So it's actually called immediate calculate. And it is the best way of having this set up to make sure it calculates for you. This won't work for some people's orgs out there, but for this instance, this is the perfect way of doing it. It says here in the calculate immediately checkbox, and you can find that by going into the CPQ and manage configuration, and you'll get to this setting here. I also speak about this setting in a couple other videos of mine, so let me know if you'd like a little bit more in depth about this area. So once I've done that, I have to set up our first product rule. And our first product rule will be add shipping. So the first thing we want it to do is to put shipping on our quotes. But it doesn't happen all the time. And that's why they've got error conditions and actions in CPQ. So when I'm in price rules and you click new, we'll get to this screen here and you get to dictate what you want your product rule to be. So I'm going to call it add shipping, leave it on selection, and our scope is on our quote. So on the overarching quote. Once all the conditions are met, I want you to evaluate all the time And I'm going to chuck it at the end in case I've got any other product rules that are firing as well. So go ahead and click save. And the next step to do is do your error conditions. So our error condition is asking the system, well, when do I fire this rule? What happens, what dictates when I actually do it? And the action is, well, what do I do when that happens? So the error condition is, we'll open it up into here, which is actually testing the quote line, which is the object here. And it's looking for the field product family on every quote line. When it sees the field product family, it has a look to see if the value is equal to hardware. And remember, our requirement was if the hardware quote is over $200, provide free shipping. So this is how I'm going to dictate to the quoting system what I mean by if the quote contains hardware. So our product, if it's sitting in the product family hardware, it'll make sure it'll fire this condition. So we'll head back to our shipping product rule. So we've told it if you find a product in our quote that contains a hardware family, then trigger this rule. But then what do I do with the rule? Now we're going to tell it what to do. So you're going to add shipping. So you're going to add and enable the product shipping, which is just a lookup field. Searching your products and click yes. And we're going to leave it as required for every one of these quotes and click save. So now we're looking at our rule and we've given it a scope talking about our quote. We're always evaluating it and we're going to trigger it when it stumbles across a product in the family hardware, and we're going to add the shipping product to that quote. So sometimes you won't be able to find your tested field in that drop down. So let me just open up our error condition. In our drop down here, you can see I've only got two options. To add a field to this pick list, you just have to add the API name of the CPQ field to this pick list on the object error conditions. Excellent. So now we've created our product rule. The next step we're actually going to do is create our custom field. So this is our custom field. We're going to call it net total excluding freight. I'll actually edit that for us. And I'm going to just put a description, freight, shipping. Sorry, I used the wrong terminology. I meant shipping. So the description is filled by a summary variable and is used in price rules. So make sure you fill in your description. It's always good best practice. So I'm going to leave it as decimal place 2 because it's a dollar. It's a currency field. And then we're going to use this field, like we said, in our summary variable. So summary variable in CPQ is a place to correlate data for relative use later. It's similar to a roll-up field in a roll-up summary field in a regular Salesforce platform, but also can be used in price rules, product rules, multiple of ways in CPQ. Obviously CPQ is powerful, and this is just a feature that's super useful for this sort of circumstance. So the summary variable we're going to make, I'm calling some customer price excluding shipping. So what I'm actually doing is I'm looking at the quote and I'm asking for how much is the net total, but please don't include the product shipping. Because if you think about it, if I get a product that's $190, the system, I've already told it to add shipping. But now it's going to include that as well in the total value. So this is why I needed a summary value to calculate and store the information of just the products that are not the shipping product. So go back to our summary variable, and I've said test the quote line object. Make sure you aggregate function would be sum, and the field to aggregate is that net total we were just talking about. Let's go ahead and edit that one. So we'll say only filter information which is saying, look at the product code. If it's not equal to ship, then sum it for me. Perfect. So now we've created our summary variable. We're now going to have to go and use that summary variable. So this is where we're going to make our price rules. So I'm going to go open up my price rules, and these are the 3 I have to make. So I have to fill the custom field we made with the summary variable value we just made. Then I'm going to have to make 2 more, which is setting the price of the shipping to either $15 or $0, depending on some criteria. So we'll open up our first one, which is filling the field, the custom field we just made with the summary variable value. I'm going to go ahead and edit it for you so you can see what it looks like when you're making it. Spelling is great. So we're going to call it the price rule, give it an evaluation scope, which is calculate. Make sure you're saying it on all conditions are met. And then I chuck in all chosen evaluation criteria. I'm going to put this criteria order as 80. This will come into reflection later. But this, I want this to be the first of our 3 price rules to fire. So it's going to be number 80. Click save. And similar to product rules, we have to tell it when do you want me to do this, and then what do you want me to do. So the when do you want me to do this is the price condition, and we're looking at the product, we're looking at the quote line, and in particular field product code, and when they're not equal to the value ship. Excellent, similar to how we were doing it before. And then what do you want me to do? Well, I want you to, on the quote object, fill in the custom field net total excluding freight we created with the value that came from the source variable. Let's go ahead and edit it so you see what it looks like. You can see here this is just a lookup field for your recent summary variables you've created, and I just click it. Pretty simple. I'm telling it to fill this field on the quote with the value that's in this summary variable and hit save. So that is our first price rule. Now our second price rule was set shipping to $0. So you can see here, I'll edit it. We've got set shipping to $0 on calculate again. All the conditions are met, all the evaluation events, and then our evaluation order is 90. So this is the next price rule that fires. Hit save. So when do you want me to fire? The price conditions are on the quote object, look at the field net total excluding freight. If the value is greater or equal than $200, fire. And we want this to be index number 1. Just tells you a number for, if you have multiple price conditions like we do here, it tells you which one to fire first. And then the other price condition we're asking it to do I'll open up and edit so it's easy to see, is index 2, so number 2, is on the quote line, if the product code equals the value ship. So we're only affecting the product shipping. Save. So we're looking back at our price rule. We've made the 2 price conditions. Now we have to say what to do with it when you hit those price conditions. And what I'm telling it to do is go to the target quote line, in particular the field list price, and give it a value of $0. So now we've told it how to give it a $0 value. Let's go and tell it the opposite, when to give it a $15 value. So we have to create our third and final price rule, our $15 value. So here I'm saying on calculate, on all these evaluation events with all my conditions are met, and our evaluation order is 100, so it's the last one to fire. We'll give it a couple of conditions, which are exactly the same than the last conditions we made, except for the fact that on this one here, which says look at the value in the field net total excluding freight, which comes from that summary variable. If it is less or equal to $199, then fire. So the last one we did was over $200. This one we're saying when it's under $199. The price condition that fires next is exactly the same as the other one. And then if these things happen, which is our price condition, what do you want me to do, which is price action? I want you to set the price on the quote line in the field list price to the value of $15. So that was a lot to take in. I understand that. I will write down as much as I can in the notes as well for you in the comments section. The requirement was we needed to provide free shipping on all hardware quotes over $200. I solved it in CPQ by creating one custom field, one product rule, one summary variable, and 3 price rules. Leave your comments below if you liked it, and thank you for tuning in to Pace Yourself with Mia Pacey.